I now invite Jan Bowen to come forward and light our chalice and lead us in our affirmation of covenant, which is printed in your order of service.
I light this chalice with these words. Open our eyes to see what is beautiful. Open our minds to learn what is true. Open our hearts to love one another. Please join me in the affirmation of covenant, which you will find printed in your order of service, saying, Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other.
This fall, the Living Legacy Project is offering 2 civil rights pilgrimages. In September, they're offering the Alabama pilgrimage that Margot and I and Jan Bowen were on last year, the one that includes the legacy sites in Montgomery, created by Brian Stevenson's Equal Justice Initiative organization, which combine a sobering recognition of the history of lynching in our country with an inspiring project helping local communities to organize and establish local historical markers that acknowledge the harm that was done in order to facilitate true reckoning and healing in the impacted communities. The Arkansas Peace and Justice Memorial Movement, created by Clarice and Kwame Abdul-Bey, is leading Arkansas's participation in that work. The second pilgrimage in October will be to civil rights sites in Mississippi. It starts and ends in Memphis and includes a visit to the Civil Rights Museum that is there at the former Lorraine Motel. The main part of the pilgrimage will be based in Jackson, with day trips out into the Delta to sites associated with Emmett Till, Medgar Evers, Fannie Lou Hamer, and the 1964 Freedom Summer voter registration drive, during which James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schwerner were murdered by local members of the Ku Klux Klan. I'm going on that one this fall. It promises to be just as sobering and inspiring as the Alabama pilgrimage. More details about these pilgrimages you can find at livinglegacypilgrimage.org. That's all one word, no spaces, all lowercase, livinglegacypilgrimage.org. And registration for both trips will be open soon if you think you might like to go with me to Mississippi or share in the powerful experience we had in Alabama last year. We'll have a link in the weekly email sometime soon. Last week, I listened to the latest installment of Chris Hayes' podcast, Why Is This Happening? His guest was Beverly Gage, an historian on the faculty of Yale University who wrote a Pulitzer Prize-winning biography of J. Edgar Hoover titled G-Man, J. Edgar Hoover and the Making of the American Century. She was talking about Hoover's early career before the FBI was created during World War I and the Red Scare of the 1920s. Hoover was involved in the Palmer Raids, an operation of mass deportation of people of Russian extraction, including writers like Emma Goldman and Alexander Berkman. And she said that in times when the federal government, when the federal administration is again engaging in mass deportations of immigrants, it is good to remember that in times like these, the American Civil Liberties Union was created, an organization that resisted and pushed back against those abuses and has endured to this day. And in times like these, I'm sure they would appreciate all the support they can get. Yesterday I got a hint from them. So they are asking for help. Gage's comments got me thinking again about what new concerns might need some organizing the way civil liberties did a century ago. I thought again about the two local projects that Jamie Nicole Jensen told us about a few weeks ago, one to independently archive Cal's Encyclopedia of Arkansas, the current articles in it, before they disappear. The other to provide meals to the families of busy moms so that they can repurpose their cooking time for participation in justice work. And I thought again of something I learned when I read over the itinerary of a recent Living Legacy pilgrimage to Mississippi. Have you heard of the Rosenwald schools? Yeah. Somebody has. Yay. I hadn't. Julius Rosenwald was the president of Sears Roebuck and Company from 1908 until 1924, and afterward chairman of its board until his death in 1932. In 1912, he partnered with Booker T. Washington to create the Rosenwald School Building Program. In the beginning, it operated under the auspices of Washington's Tuskegee Normal and Industrial Institute. But between 1913 and 1932, the program built more than 5,000 schools, teacher homes, and state-of-the-art shops for industrial education in 15 states across the South. It was a radical response to racial segregation. 1 in 5 rural schools in the South was a Rosenwald school, serving more than 663,000 students. By 1928, a third of rural black children and teachers were served by Rosenwald schools. With desegregation, many of these schools closed, but some 10 to 12% of their buildings survive. The National Trust for Historic Preservation has taken an interest in them. Otherwise, they might have been forgotten. Fisk University, one of the historically black colleges and universities, holds the archives of the Julius Rosenwald Fund. And on the itinerary of the Living Legacy Project's 2022 Mississippi pilgrimage was a visit to one of the surviving Rosenwald school buildings near Jackson. I'm hoping it will be on the itinerary this fall. It's a history I knew nothing about. Lucille Clifton asks in her poem to celebrate with her what she has shaped into a kind of life. A kind of life, a phrase that suggests something incomplete, not whole, or not the real thing. She says, I made it up. What did I see to be except myself? She says. Come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed. A life where every day something tries to kill you is no life anyone would choose. A life where, nevertheless, you survive. Still yourself. Still with agency to shape your life, to make it up, and to make a way out of no way with no model or blueprint. That is something to celebrate. And if that's your life, you certainly deserve better. So much of Black history, as well as the Black present, is composed of painful and inspirational tales about making a way out of no way. The stories of the ACLU and the Rosenwald schools are about white people stepping up to use their power to support and equip Black leaders to advance the work toward equality and equity that is still ongoing, to defend its achievements, and also to reckon with the past, heal old harms, and build relationships of respect and trust among us all. In times like these, we see more clearly how even the small differences we can make toward those ends are meaningful and do help advance the work. And what seem to us very small things that promise little. And for those of us who are white, those small things might seem small because we do not acknowledge and recognize the unearned privilege and power we bring to them merely because we are white. What seem to us small contributions to progress can be very powerful just because white people are doing them. For example, when white folks show up just to observe proceedings at a court or an immigration agency, their mere presence in the room can improve the behavior of judges and officials. They become very careful. It's remarkable, the power of this pigmentation. Another way the power of pigmentation can be deployed is in public witness events, particularly those organized by people of color. Just showing up at a public event led by someone you know and trust, without helping to run the meetings, make the plans, or shape the message ahead of time, the mere presence of white people standing with leaders of color makes powerful decision makers pay attention. There is power in this. Walk around with it all the time. There's power in it. Recognize it, acknowledge it, use it. Use it. Also, if you happen to have a little money just lying around in a savings account, you might move it out of a commercial bank and into a community development financial institution, like that of Arlo Washington, the barber of Little Rock. Support the work of a Black leader toward improving the lives and skills of some of our Black neighbors who he is helping, just by parking your money there instead of at Chase where I bank, or full disclosure. And as Jamie said, we can help each other find time to show up and make a difference by cooking or things like that. This coming Saturday, April 5th, from 11 to 4, is another major rally at our state capitol. You might have seen that advertised as starting at 2 o'clock. This is late-breaking information. They changed the time because people from the country want to come, and if it's between 11 and 4, they can get home in time to take care of their property and their animals or whatever it is they have to take care of. But if you make them come at 2 and stay late, they can't do what they need to do at home. So they changed the time, 11 to 4. I'm hearing that people from the Delta are going to come, people from, wow. They're going to come, folks. Let's go too. This is part of a series of efforts to turn out large numbers simultaneously in Washington and at every state capital to express opposition to the federal administration's policies. Which policies? Any of them, all of them. Bring your sign. Bring your sign. It's not a one-issue rally. Represent. Bring your sign. The goal, as I understand it, is at least 100,000 people in Washington and at least 25,000 people at each state capital. So I'll be there. White folks, bring your signs, show up, bring your pigment. Let's go. There are a number of organizing groups sponsoring this effort. There are always a number of organizing groups behind a public witness event this big. And multiple groups organizing is a feature of any large movement. In the 1960s, it wasn't just Dr. King and the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. It was CORE, the Congress of Racial Equality, and it was NAACP and the National Urban League and Students for a Democratic Society and the Nation of Islam and the Organization of Afro-American Unity and the Black Panthers and various unions and more. That there's this much energy and effort going into this, despite the apparent disorganization of this organizing, is a thing to celebrate. This is a short sermon. I'm going to close now by reminding you of the 5 elements of an effective social justice ministry. Public witness is only one aspect of it. That's what Saturday's about, public witness. Making a noise, catching the media's attention. Letting people know we're out here, public witness. Advocacy is another, giving testimony before a legislature or a city council or visiting and lobbying other decision makers. Advocacy is another way, along with public witness. Educating is a third way, both ourselves and the public, educating about justice issues. And direct service is a fourth way, such as the work we do through our food pantry program, through participation at our house and other organizations, hands-on direct service. Public witness, advocacy, education, direct service. I said there were 5. And if it wasn't written down, I'd be racking my brain to tell you what the 5th one is, but it's obvious. It's community organizing. Community organizing is creating and sustaining a network of individuals and organizations where we meet regularly and build strong interpersonal and interorganizational relationships that facilitate meaningful analysis and dialogue about community needs and solutions, and then serve as a foundation, because we have strong relationships and we know each other. It serves as a foundation for the other 4 aspects of justice work. In other words, hands-on, actual, functional democracy. Who'd have thought it? Democracy is not voting, it's organizing, folks. For a congregation our size, all 5 of these aspects of social justice ministry usually look like finding other organizations to partner with and show up for. And again, if you're this color and you show up, that's powerful. That gets attention. Use your power for good and not for evil. Also, it looks like finding inspiration to keep on keeping on. That's why I go to these Living Legacy Project pilgrimages, because they're designed as true pilgrimages, a communal spiritual practice where we visit and learn together, debrief and reflect together, break bread and sing together, and come home stimulated and renewed in spirit and purpose. So if you're able to take a week away, it's a good experience. You'll come home charged up and renewed. And scholarships are available through the Living Legacy Project. So think about it. And may we stay strong in our practice and witness for our values centered in love. So may it be. Amen.
We bring back Kendi. Please remain standing as I invite Jan Bowen to come up and extinguish our chalice. And we join in our closing words. Go out into the world in peace. Have courage. Hold on to what is good. Return to no person evil for evil. Strengthen the faint-hearted. Support the weak. Help the suffering. Honor all beings.
And may we always aspire to a greater love.